Finally getting around to a little more bus work. I am working on the cooling system. One of the big things I've just finished is this new filler cap assembly. I'm not convinced what was there was original because you can see what appears to be studs above and below that are ground off, and these are brass inserts behind these screw or studs and bolts that were probably brazed in after the fact. But what was here when I bought the bus was a lever style flapper style cap that had no more seal, and the spring on the lever that closed it was busted, and so it would slosh around and leak. And since I'm redoing a bunch of the cooling system, including all new silicone hoses for all the main radiator pieces and the proper constant torque spring loaded clamps, I wanted to replace this as well. So the RTV isn't fully cured, but what I did was cut a 1/8 inch thick flange with the proper bolt hole and bored a hole through the center with a hole saw and welded, not very pretty, but fully functional, welded this mild steel filler cap that I ordered off of eBay. Because this system is so low pressured and the cap is an 18 psi cap, it will never actually press up enough to come out the pressure relief overflow here. So it's just got a cap on it, a rubber cap. There is a pressure vent valve in the back of this canister already. I believe this system runs at like 1 to 2 psi, not anywhere near the 13 to 18 of a modern car. But now I have an easy way to fill it, and given the slight slope of that filler neck, it'll hold a funnel, whereas before it was a perfectly horizontal hole, and really was very difficult to fill without making a huge mess. So now it has a nice properly sealed cooling system, all fully filled back up. One of the other things that I have done is to install, don't mind this, that's going to be my engine compartment light, and I've just got to mount it, so it's just sitting in the way for now. But I have installed a mechanical temperature sensor and gauge, so it's in the top of the thermostat water pump housing over there. Because this is a 35-foot bus, and the signal wire for the new coolant temp gauge, I put all new gauges in the bus, but the signal wire has about a 45-foot path to get from back here all the way to the front. I'm not trusting it to be accurate. I'm guessing it's probably going to be off anywhere from 15 to 20 degrees. So I wanted to be able to easily verify that with a mechanical gauge back here rather than just using the infrared thermometer. And because redundancy and protecting the engine is high on my list, I've actually installed up here, you can see with the little sticker on it, a cheap little reverse camera, which points at the mechanical temp gauge, and there's already installed a mechanical oil pressure gauge, and that camera, that backup camera, is wired all the way to the front, where I have a monitor installed, because I installed cameras on all 4 sides. So there's one here in the door, you can see the one down in the front, this one on the other side, and on the back of the bus. And those 4 get piped into this high definition 10-inch monitor, which is ridiculously expensive. I could have bought a 24-inch gaming monitor with 4K resolution for what I paid for this little 10-inch jobber, and it's only 2K. But you can see the 4 cameras pop up, and it's not powered at the moment because I have the bus batteries off. But if I switch over to the AV input, this will be the view from that camera. It's pretty low resolution and it's not great, but I can see the gauge or gauges, and I'm going to put a little red mark with some red tape or paint right at the 200-degree mark, which is kind of where you don't want to cross for this engine. And that way it's really easy to flip to that even going down the road, and then I can tell, is my gauge up here in the dash, this jobber over there, accurate or not. One of my first projects early on was to replace all of these gauges. The only one that worked was the mechanical air pressure gauge. The tach didn't really work, the speedometer did not work, and I couldn't trust either the oil pressure or the coolant temp. There was no fuel gauge either. There is a sender in the tank, although with a 140-gallon tank, I doubt it'll be very accurate, but better than nothing, I suppose. I'm still going to keep an eye on mileage. So I ordered all of these from, I believe it's Speed Hut that does the custom gauges. Oh, yeah, it says right there on the bottom, Speed Hut Inc. So I got them in the style I want, right? I got a GPS speedometer that uses a little sender that right now is just sitting on the dash, but will be installed permanently. And that measures from satellite GPS your speed, which is really nice and accurate. And I got this dual or multi-gauge that shows voltage, it shows oil pressure, coolant temp, and then the fuel. And they're all programmable, so like I can program the tach, which I did using a visual tach on the cam pulley, and got the RPMs accurate. This will show you, the GPS speedometer will show you direction and elevation and all that kind of stuff. And you can set the warning lights for all of these to pop on at specific measurements. They're all programmable. And then I have now an electronic air gauge, and because it's custom, I got it to say minimum 80 psi, which is what the original had said. Mechanical gauge. I've also redone this entire switch panel with custom switches. I can't remember the name of the company. Man, is it dusty in here. Got to clean up. But I've got all these wired and working, so all my lights, the main power, emergency engine shut-off flapper, all of that stuff works. Headlights high and low. We have our headlights on and off, rather. We have a high and low switch, old school floor switch. And then all my markers, and there's a sign light in the destination, the defrost fan, high and low, and then wipers. Weirdly enough, on these buses are individual. So driver side, passenger side wiper, high and low are separate. And those are all wired in and working. I have yet to do all of these switches, some of which will be going away, like this water test doesn't do anything, and the battery connector used to connect the house with the start batteries. I have since switched to a 24-volt lithium-ion 18 kilowatt giant pack, so it's not able to be easily connected to the bus batteries, the starting batteries, so that's going away. The seat lamps don't do anything, so some of these will disappear, and then I will replace the passenger and driver's fan and lights. I gotta get a new Jake brake switch. At some point I'm going to wire up multi-stage Jakes. They're just all or nothing right now. Obviously I don't have the over-the-road air conditioning, so that one can go away. And this adjusts the speed of the driver and passenger fans, which is kind of neat. Actually, I think that just does driver. The passenger one originally had its own switch, though that fan has been replaced. But you can see the driver fan up here. So it's nice to be able to keep that and adjust it. But I'll have custom switches over here that are this same style with exactly the icon and writing how I want, because they're all custom covers laser etched covers for these Contora style switches. I am sticking with this style switch for all of my house switches as well, because nearly everything in the bus is going to be DC 12 volt because I have a big solar and lithium battery. There are a couple switches by the door I haven't changed out yet that are rocker style, but back here through the mess that is the living area, you can see this bank of switches here, and these are all the same Contora, I'm not sure how it's actually pronounced, same bodies. So these switch covers can be replaced, and the company that does the laser etching for the custom switches will sell you just a cover. So I've got a cheat sheet for what these do. Right now, just these top 6 are actually being used. I have used these 2 as well. That one's the shower light, and that one's gonna go to the bedroom. I haven't finished the wiring for the bedroom lights, but I still have room for expansion. I have 4 extra switches. These control the lighting in the entire bus. So I have forward lighting. I have under cabinet or under counter lights, I guess, under the upper cabinets. And then I also have under cabinet lighting if you don't want the overhead lights on. So I've got all those wired, and I've got to get custom switch covers ordered. So as much as possible, I'm going to stick with this same style because I can have them printed. And then I'm not sticking goofy labels on them or below them. They'll be laser etched with the name of what they do, backlit. I really don't care for the super bright LEDs, but it is kind of nice at night to be able to see. I've also installed in this area my battery monitor. I have a shunt in the system so I can measure amps going in and out. So my battery's full at 100%, so we can see that, and we can see that there's not much happening. It's charging at half an amp because it's just floating essentially. The security system cameras are on all the time, and these are on, these backlights are on all the time. So there's a tiny amp draw from that, so it will be constantly having to feed that. This is the original switch for the gas hot water heater. I have to rewire it because it doesn't work properly, but I figured I would leave it because it tells you when the burner is lit or not and if there's a problem, and so I didn't want to try to make that on my own. Anyway, some of that's a redo of stuff in other videos, but I'm trying to document as much as I can.